This is everything I did to pass the FAR exam. So the FAR exam is largely the considered the most difficult portion of the CPA exam. It often has the lowest pass rate. And I took the exam back in June of 2025. So I'm going to go through what I did to pass the exam, some things I would have changed about my studying. So first off, with the FAR, you're going to put in a lot of hours. It is so much content. As you can see, I have 200 hours right here already. And that's not even really factoring in some of the other times that I spent over here on Quizlet. So first things first, Becker is the course I used to study, and I'll go ahead and recommend you use this as well. There's a thing called the Becker bump where the questions on here, and I can confirm this, are more difficult than the actual CPA exam. So this, if anything, over prepares you, which I was really happy about. So if you're using Becker, that's good. So I'm going to speak mostly to this for my practice purposes, or for my purposes of explaining what I did. So what I did whenever I was studying FAR is just a brief overview. The main thing is just getting a lot of multiple choice questions and practice quizzes. If we go over here, 86 towards over here. So what I normally did is when I first started, I'd go through and I would watch the videos. I also ordered in the textbook, which is the same for the digital textbook, but I prefer having a physical copy, which you can order that in through the Becker website, and it's completely free if you have the subscription to the actual study software. It comes with your package, so you can do that, and they'll ship you out a actual hard copy, paperback copy of the textbook. So I'd read through the chapter, I'd go through the videos, and then I'd go through the MCQs. Starting off, I was doing all the task-based simulations, but you'll soon realize these task-based simulations take a ton of time, like so much time. So eventually I started skipping them, and I'd get my practice in the task-based simulations over the practice test only. And really, if you understand most of the concepts from the multiple choice, it's going to translate to the task-based simulation, at least in what I've noticed. So I'd read through the textbook, then I'd go through each of these videos. And when I was going through these videos, I'd take light notes, but nothing too crazy. I'd kind of pay attention. And then I'd go through the multiple choice all the way through. And anytime I got an answer wrong, I had a notebook on the side. And I'd just write down, okay, here is not just the right answer, but I'd write down the explanation for the answer to just kind of solidify the concept that I got wrong. And now they actually have something that's a lot more helpful. This like a AI tool, which if I open this up, I can show you right here. So with this one, you can pretty much ask it anything. I'm always asking if I can see the journal entries, which I don't even know if it's applicable. I didn't read the question. Yeah, you see it will go ahead and give you what the typical journal entries would be. And this I found really helpful because beforehand you had to just email somebody and they'd have to get back to you, and it'd take like a day for a question. So definitely use this. Always ask for the journal entries. For me, that helps solidify the concept and get it more ingrained. So besides that, you're going to start with the textbook, then the videos, then the multiple choice. Task-based, you can do some of them, but they're going to take a lot of time. So I recommend waiting for the practice test. So what I typically do is I'd get through 2 full sections, so an F1, F2. Then I'd be doing practice test over F1 and F2. And I just have only multiple choice in those. And then as I kept progressing through the sections, at the very end of my study time, I'd always make sure, let me take a practice test where I include everything that I've had beforehand. So if I was on F4, I do my F4 questions, I do my F4 videos, multiple choice for the day, whatever it was going to be. And then at the very end, before I sign off, let me do 20 questions, and I'm going to select it to mix in questions from F1, F2, and F3. That way I get coverage over everything I've already received, and I don't forget anything. Now, I know I said on the task-based simulations that I saved most of them for the simulated exam, which I did, but one thing I would change. I think that's fine on everything except over here to the statement of cash flows. I really recommend you focus a lot on the task-based simulations for the indirect method of cash flows, because there is a high chance it's going to be on there. And that's something I wish I would have done it. And I think I could have scored a bit higher if I had that more solidified down on that process. So I'll say with the statement of cash flows, definitely make sure you work the task-based simulation on that one. For the rest of everything, you can do multiple choice. So now, besides those, I didn't really use the flashcards that much. It was mostly practice tests, the multiple choice in the videos. One thing I did do that I also found helpful, again, when I was saying I'd write down the explanation for the questions for anyone I got wrong, what I also did is I went ahead and I took down if there was a formula that I just didn't have memorized. And I'd come over here, and if there was any formulas, I'd throw them onto this this Quizlet I made. And then besides the formula, as you can see, I also started throwing in a lot of these acronyms because they love their acronyms in the FAR exam. There is so many within that Becker course and so many formulas you need to remember. So every day, what I'd also do when studying is I'd just go in, open this up, I'd see, okay, I'd repeat, see if I knew it. If I knew it, click it into the no pile. If I didn't, shuffle it back in, and I just keep doing that till I clear through all of them till all of them were in the no category. And I found this was very helpful because it got me a lot of easy points, and you want to make sure you get those easy points on the actual FAR exam. Now, one more thing I will say, consistency is really just going to be key with passing this exam. You don't want to cram the day before. For me, I was studying basically minimum 2 hours a day every day of the week, including Sundays. Maybe I'd miss a Sunday here and there, maybe I'd just do an hour, but for the most part it was 2 hours every day. And doing that, working, while it was a little tough, what I personally did is I'd wake up earlier and I'd just get it knocked out at the start of the day, right before I started my shift, 7 to 9, just only focusing on studying and getting this done. Just because I felt that was the best for me, and I felt most mentally clear, and I felt I learned best this way. As of when I tried to go through an entire shift of work, then jump to 2 hours of studying, it didn't work because I'd get off work, and the last thing I wanted to do was study more. I was finally off work. I wanted to chill out a bit. So me personally, I like to move it towards the front, but I know some people might prefer to do it in the afternoon. So that's really helpful. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and get the link to this FAR formula chart I used, and I'll go ahead and throw that over into the description of this video. So if you want to look at that, you can. And then if you have any follow-up questions, you can go ahead and reach out in the comment section and I'll get back to you. So just to clarify, main thing I was doing, going over the main points, read the chapter first, videos, then as many multiple choice questions as you can. Like, I'm talking all the multiple choice questions. If you get a question wrong, read the explanation, write down the explanation. You're going to remember it so much better if you read it out and then write it down. Make sure you're doing that. Make sure you have your formulas memorized. And practice test, practice test, practice test. Just do as many as you can. I recommend whenever you have your exam scheduled, try to already be finished with all the content of going through it a first time with about 3 weeks to maybe a month before the exam is ready. That's what I did personally. So I had the full last month where I already went through all the content. So just every day, all I did, let me do a mini exam. Let me do a mini exam. Let me do a mini exam every day. Just answering as many questions as I could. And the formatting of this in Becker is exactly the same as when you're at the actual exam site. Like, I'm not even joking. The way the multiple choice is laid out, like this, with the spreadsheet calculator, as well as the task base, it's exactly straight pulled from the exam software they use. It's the same one. And also, that's another thing I'll throw in that I almost forgot. This spreadsheet is going to be your best friend, at least for me. So what I do is at the start of any of my questions, I did this on the exam too, I'd click here. I'd make sure to make everything in the correct formatting for easier for reading. And then I'd usually pump this up to 90. That way, if I was putting like 100,000 or something, it all fit and I wouldn't have to adjust that later. And right here, the main thing I was doing over here is just anytime I had a question, I'd just be writing the information down over here so I could get it down in a cell. And this really improved the efficiency and speed of moving through the exam, which you need because it's timed. Because as I'm going through the question, I'm putting down the information and I go, okay, they want me to calculate, let's say, the quick ratio. Okay, I already wrote down the quick assets on the top, or I wrote down like the current assets. I had the inventory, I had the prepaid already over here that I could subtract out easily with the formula. And then I had the current liabilities right here. So I just did that divided by that. You know, something like that. It makes it way quicker if you know how to work Excel. And it makes it way more efficient. Something else that I didn't do too much, but I do remember them giving a tip in one of the videos was they'd sometimes, make their number list. So say there was 25 questions in a booklet. They'd go ahead and do that. We'll just do that for now. And as they were answering questions, they'd kind of mark them off. So they'd go, okay, I 100% know this is the correct question. So I'm going to put that green, blah, 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 whatever. This one, I'm not sure if I made it right. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one, yellow. And then this one, I had no clue. And you just kind of categorize them. And then at the very end, you'd kind of just go through here and you just filter for your greens and just double check, make sure all the easy ones that you know for sure you got right, you didn't mess up on them. And the yellow one, see if you got any information from your other questions that you could potentially use to clear up any ones that you were unsure of, which sometimes happens. That one I didn't use too much, but that is another tip if you just want something else there. But just in general, just using the spreadsheets gonna make you more efficiently. And so I just always recommend just put your information down on the spreadsheet as you're reading the question. Just, okay, $2.2 million of asset before considering the following. So I just $2.2 million over here, and then I'd put all these adjustments. And then after I do all of that and have all this information down, now I'll really analyze and see, okay, what do I need to remove, add in, etc. One last thing, I know I keep saying one last thing, but this is really the last thing. Read the end of the question first every time. There's so many times where I got in the habit of doing this, and there's so many times there were questions where when I read the end of the question, half the information up here wasn't even relevant, and it was a question I was able to answer in like 10 seconds. Whereas if I were to start up here and read, I'd already start thinking about all of this. And by the time I got here, I wasted like an additional 30, 40 seconds before I figured none of this even mattered. So read the question at the bottom, see what it's asking you. And I'd usually write it down somewhere over here. So like, for example, this one, the entity's policy is not to capitalize collections in its financial statements. What amount should be reported as total assets in the December 31st statement of financial position? So I'd go down here and I'd just write in total assets, 12/31 year one. That too, remember dates. They will try to trick you with dates. Be very particular on it. Anytime you're writing something down, make sure you know, is it a 12/31 year one or is it 12/31 year two? Because there is a lot of times where they'll try to trip you up starting in year two or starting in year three. And if you skimmed over that part, you're going to get the question wrong. Not because you didn't know how to do it, but just because you messed up your dates. But that pretty much covers most of what I did whenever I took the exam and what I did to pass it. I'm currently studying for bar, but with this FAR formula sheet, I will go ahead and put in the description for anybody who wants to look through it. I'm not going to say it's complete. It has completely everything because, like I said, this was just stuff I didn't already have memorized. I threw it in here till I did have it memorized. But this does have plenty of the formulas and the acronyms used in the actual material. So I'll go ahead and throw that in. And I will catch you on the next one.